My name is Mira Hollow, 27 years old. I had just gotten home from a 12-hour shift when the phone started vibrating across the counter like a trapped insect. I didn't even take off my shoes. My dinner, lukewarm takeout I couldn't really afford, sat unopened, sweating into its cardboard. When I saw Mom pulsing on the screen, I picked up out of muscle memory, the same reflex that makes you yank your hand back from a hot pan even when you swear you're done cooking for other people. Her voice landed in the room, already crying. Mira, the mortgage is behind. 2 months. They started the paperwork. We're drowning. Words tumbled over each other. Bank notices, late fees, Dad's shifts cut, Lily not coping. The panic sounded rehearsed and real at the same time, like lines learned under duress. If we can get $8,700 by tomorrow morning, she said with the precision of a cashier counting change, we can stop it. Just $8,700 exactly. Exactly? I asked, staring at the new suitcase leaning in the hallway like a promise I'd made myself. 2 years of tips and overtime had gone into that suitcase. It knew the shape of Oahu better than I did. She didn't hesitate. Yes, we wouldn't ask if it wasn't life or death. For 5 seconds, Dad took the phone. Thank you, honey, he said, already in gratitude I hadn't offered. You're saving us. Then he was gone again, the way he always is when there's any chance he'll have to stay and answer questions. Lily? I asked, because her name sits in every story like a centerpiece. Where is she? She's trying, Mom said, that careful word that means not contributing. Then softer, practiced. She cries every night. She's ashamed we've let it get this bad. I stared at the unopened takeout. I thought about the flights I'd priced, the sunrise hikes I'd bookmarked, the raincoat I'd bought on sale after 3 separate deliberations. I told myself the same line I have always told myself. There will be other trips. There will not be other families. Okay, I said. I'll wire it in the morning. Bless you, she choked. We'll pay you back. A promise folded neatly and stored where all the other promises live. After we hung up, the apartment was so quiet I could hear the fridge hum and the faint street noise sneaking under the window. I opened the takeout and ate the first bite standing at the counter, tasting less food than a decision sliding into place. In the bedroom, my suitcase watched me like a witness. My Hawaii fund, a savings account built from overtime shifts, canceled Friday nights, and the kind of small self-denials no one notices, held $8,721.43. I moved $8,700 into checking. I didn't sleep. I measured out caffeine and resolve, counted down hours until the bank opened like I was timing an IV drip. The transfer went out at 9:12 a.m. The confirmation page told me I was a good daughter in sterile font. I went to work because the world keeps asking even when you've already handed it everything. No one mentioned the money that day, or the next. I told myself they were busy triaging panic. I folded laundry on my living room floor 6 days later when Uncle Steve texted me. Steve, who never dramatizes, who says only what the situation can carry. Figured you hadn't seen this. You should. It was a screenshot of Lily's private album on Facebook. My parents and Lily and her boyfriend at a beach resort with infinity pools and private cabanas and drinks wearing flowers, like it was a movie about forgetting your problems. There were photos of spa robes and seafood towers, and the kind of lighting that makes even betrayal look cinematic. In the center of one group shot, Lily had captioned it, "Vacation without loser." Everyone in the family was tagged. Everyone but me. I read the caption 5 times, waiting for it to rearrange itself into the version that wouldn't slit something inside me. Loser. That wasn't a joke. That was a thesis. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't throw my phone across the room or scream into the towel drawer. I just sat on the floor, the clean t-shirts pooling around my knees, and let the air go thin. I replayed the phone call, the sobs, the exact dollar amount, Dad's 5-second blessing. I thought about the suitcase. I thought about my mother swearing on everything. I thought about how silence from them after the transfer felt less like overwhelm and more like strategy. Sometimes when a thing breaks, it makes a sound you never forget. Sometimes it's noiseless. The way ice fractures underfoot and you feel it through your bones more than you hear it. That night, something quiet and load-bearing in me gave way, and the only sound was my breathing, landing differently in my chest. The next morning I did not call to accuse or demand. I made coffee, sat at the table, opened a blank document, and typed a header: receipts, dates, amounts, screenshots. Every emergency I'd paid for after a milestone of mine. The dentist bill the week I got promoted, the tuition gap, the month my rent went up, the car repair, the afternoon I bought myself a secondhand coat without guilt. Patterns are just truths with a longer tail. I pulled open the pegboard near my door where my keys hang in a tidy row. Apartment key, mailbox key, locker key, the extra key to my parents' blue Honda Accord they gave me last year, when I picked them up from the airport at 3 a.m. and never asked back for. I touched the fob. The key felt heavier than it should, like it remembered the weight of every Saturday Dad spent wiping rain spots from its hood. I could hear his voice in my head. Be reasonable. I could hear Mom's. We're drowning. I could see Lily's caption, the way letters can be knives when wielded by someone who believes she cannot be cut. I put the spare key in my pocket. The bus ride across town was so ordinary it felt like a dare. 2 transfers, a seat beside a woman scrolling vacation rental listings. I walked the last 5 blocks like I was headed to the grocery store, not a reckoning. Their street was drowsy with mid-afternoon heat. The Honda crouched in the driveway, clean and self-satisfied. I slid into the driver's seat as if I had every right to, because in a way I did. If they wanted my savings to be a family asset, then the family assets had a different meaning than I'd been taught. The car smelled like Dad's cologne and dealership plastic. His radio presets were still lined up, news station first, classic rock second, the oldies I used to hate third. I turned the key. The engine purred. In the rear view, the house's curtains hung steady. I waited long enough to know I didn't owe the air an apology, then pulled out. Uncle Steve met me 2 hours later under the DMV's fluorescent lights that make everyone look like they're about to confess. He wore the expression he saves for funerals and taxes. You sure? He said, not as a dare, but as an invitation to choose myself and mean it. They lied, I said. The truth didn't feel explosive anymore. It felt like gravity. They'll call it petty. They'll call it theft. But if a thing can be taken back, maybe they shouldn't have taken it first. He huffed something that might have been a laugh. Truth feels like betrayal to people who live on a lie. We filed what we could. We documented. He reminded me to keep my feet cold and my paper trail hot. When I thanked him, he waved it away. You didn't start the fire, he said. You're just refusing to stand in it. At home, the Honda sat at the curb like a blue apology. Evening gathered itself around the building. I opened my laptop. The DMV tab blinked beside a new one labeled Title, beside another labeled Insurance, beside the document titled Receipts, where the first line was $8,700 and the second line was a screenshot of Lily's caption. I put my phone face down, because if I looked, I would see a family group chat doing cartwheels to make me the arsonist. In the kitchen, my dinner from last night, what was left of it, sat open. I ate it cold. It tasted more like food than the night before because it belonged to me again. I closed my eyes and pictured Oahu the way I had taught myself to do when work was thick and hope was thin. The rim of a volcano at sunrise. The ocean in the stubborn color it refuses to be called anything but blue. A weathered sign pointing toward a trail with a name I loved saying out loud. I let the image sit and didn't apologize to it for moving the date out from under it. When I opened my eyes, my cursor hovered over a new tab I'd opened without quite knowing, DMV, Title Transfer Requirements. I scrolled like a person reading directions for building a bridge she had already stepped onto. My hand found the spare key in my pocket and closed around it. You wanted a lifeline, I said to the room that had learned my voice in every register. You taught me ropes. The words didn't feel like vengeance. They felt like physics. I bookmarked the page. I unchecked a box that said keep me logged in, because some habits die slow. I set the key beside the laptop and lined it up with the edge, squared and neat. The phone vibrated then, and for a moment I let it. The sound filled the apartment like a rehearsal I was no longer available to attend. Then I flipped it silent, and the quiet that followed didn't accuse me. It welcomed me. I opened a new note and typed a title in caps. Boundary conditions. Beneath it, a single line. Act in daylight. Document everything. Speak last, or not at all. Then I opened the DMV tab again. The Honda sat at the curb outside my apartment like it had lived there all its life. Its paint still gleamed, the tires wiped clean from Dad's obsessive Saturday rituals. I stared at it through the blinds, heart steady, hands still. It was the first time I could remember holding something of theirs that they valued, something they couldn't dismiss as just money or just a favor. Uncle Steve met me at the DMV the next morning. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flattening everyone's features into weary honesty. He stood beside me in line with his arms folded, the posture of a man who has seen this all before. "You know," he said, "if they report this stolen, they'll have to explain where they were when it happened. You sure they want that on record?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about the photos. The Lees, the infinity pool, Lily's caption, "Vacation without loser." I thought about Mom's frantic voice begging me to save the house. "I'm sure," I said finally. "If truth sounds like betrayal to them, that's on them." Steve's mouth quirked, dry amusement, but also something protective. "Good, because I'll back you if they push. Just don't lose your head. Make it clean. Make it documented." We filled out paperwork, signed where the clerks told us to sign. It was transactional, almost boring, but every box ticked felt like a small rebalancing of scales that had been tilted against me my whole life. When I slid behind the wheel later, I adjusted the seat. Dad always kept it too far back, like the car belonged to his body and no one else's. I moved it forward, set the mirrors to my height. On the drive home, the leather smelled like him, but the steering wheel belonged to me. They landed 3 days later. I knew before they called, some instinct, some tug in my chest that felt like thunder approaching. Then my phone lit up. First Mom, "Where is the car?" Then Lily, "Tell me you didn't actually take Dad's car. WTF is wrong with you." Then Dad, "Call me right now." I let the phone buzz itself into silence. I wanted the panic to steep, let them feel powerless for once. When I finally answered, Mom's voice shrieked so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "How could you do this to us? Theft? Betrayal? After everything we've done for you?" "After everything I've done for them," I thought. Dad's voice came next, calmer but sharper in its way. "You've misunderstood. You're overreacting. You're hurting the family." That was when I cut in. How was the resort? Was the spa worth $8,700? Did the champagne taste sweeter with a side of betrayal? Silence. The kind that feels like a glass, shattering without sound. "You saw," Dad started. "I saw everything," I said. "And you're lucky all I took was the car." I hung up before they could scramble for a script. Hours later, Lily posted one of her cryptic Instagram stories. A black background, white text, "Fake people can't stand to see others happy." I screenshotted it and almost laughed. Still, she believed she had the upper hand. But I wasn't planning to stop at the car. That night, I dug through my email, old texts, even Mom's social media posts from years back. I started making a list. The time they borrowed money from cousin Mia, claiming it was for Lily's textbooks, only to spend it covering Dad's gambling debt. The time they pressured Aunt Sandra into signing over part of Grandpa's inheritance for emergency roof repairs, then used it to throw Lily's boyfriend a birthday party under a brand new patio awning. Dozens of moments like that, fragments I'd let pass in silence because I was the designated peacekeeper. Not anymore. I organized screenshots into folders labeled with names, dates, and amounts. The folder grew heavy, like a red notebook of sins made digital. When the list was ready, I drafted a message. Calm, detailed, factual. No embellishments, because the truth was already brutal enough. I sent it privately, first to Mom, then to Lily, then to Dad. Attached were the screenshots. My note was short. "You stole my money. You lied. You mocked me. You can apologize and make this right, or this goes public. Facebook, Reddit, everyone. You choose." It took 5 minutes. That's all. Mom called, but her sobs were different this time. Less hysterical, more afraid. "What do you want?" she asked, voice trembling. "I want you to admit it," I said. "Not just to me. Publicly. On the same platform where you let your daughter call me a loser." She begged, said it would humiliate them, said no one would understand. "I don't care," I told her. Lily texted, dismissive as always. "It was just a joke. You're psychotic for taking it this far." I didn't reply. Instead, I sent the same packet to my brother Brian, the golden child, the one who never had to sacrifice, the one who basked in their worship. I attached the evidence with one line. "I'm done protecting them. If you don't want to be part of the fallout, stay quiet." He didn't respond, not a word. That silence told me everything. The balance was shifting. For years, they'd made me feel small, powerless, crazy. Now the weight was on them, and they knew it. It started in the extended family group chat, the one I usually kept muted, full of recycled memes, prayer chains, and birthday balloons. That afternoon, my phone lit up with a wall of text from Mom. Her message read like a courtroom opening statement, long paragraphs stacked into a towering defense. While they were away on a modest little break, I had apparently snuck onto their property and stolen their only vehicle. She said I was unstable, paranoid, refusing to return what wasn't mine. And then the final line, the knife she thought would twist deepest. We love Mira, but this kind of behavior is a cry for help. Please be patient with her. A cry for help. I laughed, sharp, disbelieving, and stood up in my living room because I couldn't stay still. They weren't just lying, they were rewriting me as unhinged, turning my refusal to be used into proof that I was unraveling. They weren't trying to defend themselves. They were staging me as the family's liability. Before I could reply, Uncle Steve beat me to it. Kathy, you sure you want to lie like that in a group chat? And then, like a magician producing damning evidence, he dropped 3 screenshots. The beach photo, everyone tagged but me. The caption, vacation without loser. And the bank transfer, $8,700. My name as sender, their account as recipient. Silence fell over the chat. The little typing bubbles vanished. For 5 long minutes, no one moved. Then Aunt Mia chimed in. Wait, is that where my $3,000 went last year? You told me it was for Lily's tuition. Next, Aunt Sandra. They did the same with Grandpa's inheritance. Said it was for emergency roof repairs. I saw pictures of a brand new grill and a patio party the next week. The thread began to unravel in real time. Cousin Jenna, who never said anything, wrote, They told me they couldn't loan me $200 because they were broke. Said they'd just paid off their mortgage. That was in May. One by one, the family began piecing together old lies, debts, and manipulations. Lily left the group chat without a word. Her little profile icon just blinked out, gone. Mom tried to regain control. We didn't mean to upset anyone. There are a lot of misunderstandings. We'll resolve this with Mira privately. But the dam had burst. My inbox started filling with private messages. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Distant relatives I barely remembered. Some were apologetic. I never realized how much they leaned on you. Others were accusatory in reverse. Did they really tell you to cover the mortgage when they weren't even behind? The biggest shock came later that night. A private message from Brian. Golden boy Brian. The one they protected. The one they praised for breathing. The one they never asked to sacrifice. They told me you donated the Hawaii money, he wrote. Said you didn't want to travel anymore, that you gave it to the family. I had no idea. I stared at the message, my hands suddenly still. For once he sounded stunned, almost sincere. Do you believe me now? I typed. The dots blinked for a minute, then his reply. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. For a long time, I just looked at the screen. For years, I thought Brian saw everything, that he stayed neutral by choice. But now I realized he'd been fed a curated version of the story too. They hadn't just exploited me. They'd lied to him, to everyone, so consistently that even the favorite was just another pawn. And now, in the group chat's wreckage, the whole structure was beginning to collapse. I didn't post anything publicly yet. I didn't need to. I had the draft saved, calm, factual, devastating. But for the moment, restraint was power. I closed the laptop, the cursor blinking over my unsent post. Not yet, I whispered. Because sometimes silence isn't surrender. It's a blade, waiting for the right moment to cut. A week later, I decided waiting was over. I opened the draft I had saved. Dates, screenshots, captions, bank records, inheritance stories that had been swept under rugs. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't add venom. I wrote it like a ledger, cold and precise, because the truth didn't need seasoning when it was already this bitter. Then I hit post. At first, nothing. Then a few likes. Then shares. Comments began to sprout like weeds in cracked pavement. Within 15 minutes, my notifications surged so fast my phone lagged. Old classmates, coworkers, distant relatives, even strangers who had seen the repost. People weren't just reading. They were furious. Furious for me. Furious at them. Someone screenshot Lily's vacation without loser caption and re-uploaded it with the words, "Imagine stealing from your own sister and being proud of it." Another wrote, This family sounds like a discount cult. Run and don't look back. I didn't reply to a single one. I just watched. By evening, the fallout was impossible to ignore. Lily vanished from every platform. Not just deactivated, gone, wiped. Dad, who normally posted bad puns and forwarded memes daily, went silent. Mom made her account private, but not before cousins ripped through her timeline pointing out inconsistencies between emergencies and vacations. Brian called 3 times. I ignored the first 2, picked up the third. "You really went scorched earth, huh?" he said, no greeting. His voice sounded thin, tired. "They lied," I said simply. He sighed. "They're falling apart. Mom hasn't eaten in 2 days. Dad wants to sue, but doesn't know for what. Grandma called me crying." He hesitated. "They're not going to say sorry. They don't think they did anything wrong. They think you're being dramatic." I leaned back in my chair, let that settle. "And what do you think?" A pause. Then, "I think they've been doing this for years, and you finally blew it open. I don't blame you." For a moment, I almost laughed. My golden boy brother finally admitting the sky was blue. I told him I sold the Honda. His voice didn't even spike. "How much?" 10,000 flat. After phase, I came out ahead by 1,500. "Good," he said. "You deserved it." And then he hung up. That night, Mom messaged me. A long paragraph that looked like an apology until I read it. Really, it was just spin. How I humiliated them. How I misunderstood. How it wasn't supposed to be like this. The word sorry never appeared. I left her on red. Then I blocked them, one by one. Mom, Dad, Lily. The act didn't feel petty or vindictive. It felt like locking a door. I should have closed years ago. The only one I didn't block was Brian. Maybe because he hadn't tried to rewrite the story. Maybe because part of me wanted one unburnt bridge left, even if it was half collapsed. Blocking them felt clean. The apartment air felt different, less heavy. But silence never lasts long in my family. 3 days later, a knock came at my door. When I checked, Brian was standing there, coffee in hand, eyes ringed with exhaustion. He texted once, "Got time?" And now, here he was. Brian stood in my doorway like he wasn't sure if he was guest or messenger. I let him in. He didn't sit right away, just hovered by the window, sipping coffee that smelled burnt and sour. His shoulders slumped in a way I hadn't seen since we were kids, when he failed a math test and tried to hide it under his pillow. "They're pretty shaken up," he started. "Lily hasn't left her room. Dad almost got written up at work. Someone taped that vacation without loser photo to his locker. Mom hasn't gone to church in a week. It's bad." I stayed quiet, waiting. He finally turned. "They want you to give the car money back. Not about the car, about closure, about trust. They say you went too far." I almost laughed. Closure? Trust? They lied to me, stole from me, mocked me publicly, and then painted me unstable. That car was restitution. That post was restraint. Brian's jaw worked like he was chewing gravel. "They don't see it that way." "Of course they don't," I said. "They're not sorry, they're scared. There's a difference." For the first time, he didn't argue. He just sat down, rubbed his hands over his face. He looked torn between blood and bone, between the family who raised him and the sister standing in front of him now. I leaned forward. "Brian, I need you to understand something. I've kept a record, not just memory, a notebook. Years of notes, screenshots, dates, every emergency, every guilt trip, every lie. It's scanned, backed up in the cloud. If they ever come after me, legally, financially, publicly, I'll release it everywhere. Facebook, Reddit, group emails, church bulletins if I have to. I'll light the whole thing up." He didn't flinch, just nodded slowly. "I believe you." I studied his face, waiting for the recoil, the accusation. It never came. Instead, he stood, walked to the door, and before leaving, said something that cut deeper than anything else. "They're scared of you now, just so you know." The door shut behind him with a soft click. That weekend, I sold the Honda clean. 10,000 flat, title transferred, no haggling. I walked away with 1,500 more than I'd given them. The money went straight into a new fund, labeled not Hawaii this time, but freedom. I upgraded everything. Better flights, a longer stay, a volcano tour, even a nicer Airbnb with a balcony over the ocean. I booked it the same day the transfer cleared. October departure, alone. For weeks, silence reigned. Lily gone from social media, Dad's account scrubbed clean, Mom's profile locked down so tightly it may as well have been deleted. The absence was loud, but not painful. Then a letter arrived in my mailbox. Real paper, handwritten cursive. Grandma. She'd always stayed out of drama, claiming neutrality. Inside the envelope was a single page. I want you to know I read everything. I'm sorry you had to go through it. I never realized how much you've been carrying. You deserve that vacation, and you deserve peace, even if it means peace without us. No guilt, no manipulation, just recognition. I folded the letter and slid it into my travel journal. For once, the weight I carried wasn't invisible. Someone had seen it. That night, I checked the countdown app on my phone. 32 days until departure. For the first time in years, the silence around me wasn't something I had to survive. It was something I'd earned. They thought they'd broken me with a caption, but I wasn't the loser. I was the exit plan they never expected to lose. And this time, I was walking away for good.